Executive Secretary of the Civil Liberties Organization, Ezike Ibuchukwu. Good morning.
Good morning. God bless Nigeria. Barkade Salah.
Well, many thanks. And, well, a whole lot has been happening. Let's start from the preparations as well as comments from Nigerians as we get towards this big year 2015.
Well, it is a worrisome situation that close to 2 years before the 2015 elections, politicians are making statements that will hit off the polity and that will embarrass the citizens and cause violations of human rights, just like as if we were in the dark days of the military. We expected that the politicians should play the game according to the rules and respect the rights of the citizens and the rights of co-politicians too. You know, because Nigeria belongs to all of us. There's no special person or special people that this country belongs to. So there must be an equal playing ground. The electoral process must be one that will accommodate all of us. And the electoral umpire must ensure that such statements that will hit up the polity and cause, loss of lives, loss of property, and infringe on the rights of the citizens are nipped on the bud and are not allowed to cause a crisis.
But Professor Jega has been talking. He's actually not been silent on the need for politicians and even parties to do what's expected of them. But if you look at it basically, let's also link it to some comments and actions. But when you talk about level playing field, perhaps politics or politicians have actually started all of this by talking about zoning and, well, when they talk about turn by turn concerning some local governments or locality or senatorial district. Aren't these capable of actually hitting up the polity of whose turn it is to actually come? Is that truly democratic?
Well, what is democracy? The decision, unanimous decision of the citizens or the people or those who are involved in the process to say this is the way we want to go it. There's no country in the world that had, the only way, that people must, choose their leaders or rulers. So the way Americans do it must not be the way Nigerians do it. Because before the advent of what they call modern democracy, we have democracy in our communities. Where I come from, the people come to the village square, and decide on how they are going to do their things. If you read things fall apart, you will see exactly how the Africans lived before the advent of Europeans. And what they call Greek civilization is what was bequeathed to the world by Nigerians or Africans. So this thing is not because their own were, documented before our own. Otherwise, in their own rural communities, how we do our things. So if the people have decided that this section of the people or state or country should produce the leaders, there's nothing bad about it. It's democracy.
So long as it's the people's choice.
What is people's choice? Is it animal choice? It's the choice of the people, because it also has helped to reduce the tension in the polity. For instance, let me just make an analogy. In 1993, there's a group called the Summit Club in Port Harcourt. It's an association of graduates from Enugu State origin who were resident in Rivers State. And in that 1993, they launched the group. And they got one Professor Mark Anipo, a sociologist, professor of sociology at the University of Port Harcourt, to present the lecture. And the topic was state creation, the demands and the agitations by the people. And the prof summed up the entire lecture by saying that in as much as the demands, the aspirations, and the desires of the citizens will continue to be eluded, the political leaders will not satisfy the aspirations of these persons. Now, people will continue to demand for states and local government of their own. And he threatened that he may begin to demand for an equal state. So if you do those things, that will make people to agitate for the states and local government of their own. You have reduced tension. And there's nothing bad in saying, we have 2 senatorial districts. Now, this senatorial district will produce the governor in this term or in this period. Then the other period goes to the other senatorial district, and so on and so forth. Are you telling us that is there any community in this country that cannot produce citizens, who can produce the president of this country, who can produce governors? So why must this thing be located to one senatorial district or one federal constituency or state assembly or community?
See, what you're saying now points to issue of processes.
Yes.
Our processes in order. Now, you talked about what used to be before the advent of modern-day democracy,
yes,
the African democracy, so to speak. Those processes as they were then, can they be brought into the modern-day democracy, and would they work?
That is even the better process. But in those days, our forefathers were not told that they fought. They know the way, they know how to organize their things. And it worked for them. It can equally work in this process. So that if you know that it is your turn to produce the governor of the state, you go and decide and say, this is the person we want. It has reduced spending, has reduced a crisis and conflicts where people's lives will be lost.
That sounds like consensus candidature.
His consensus, what is happening in PDP and other political parties? What is the internal democracy? Even the so-called democracy we are fighting in this country, is it democracy? When you will not ambition, I will not ambition, she will not ambition. And at the end of the day, they say step down for her. Or maybe because she's a lady, she's not qualified to run. She may not be able to produce thugs and money and all that to face the men, and then they ask her to stay. Is that democracy?
Do they still do that?
That is what is happening in Nigeria. Don't you monitor their primaries? In Anambra, where we are now preparing for elections in November 16th, PDP has 2 candidates. Apuga has 2 candidates. How come? Is that how democracy should be practiced? But if they have agreed that, okay, it is the Anambra North that should produce the governor of the state, you will not have people coming from Anambra South and Anambra Central to vie for elections. All the candidates must come from one senatorial district. It will reduce the tension. It will reduce the crisis. And you know the iniquities of conflicts in political process.